Hey guys, welcome to the Short Term Show special episode series on Shenandoah, Virginia. A couple things I want to hit you with first before we get into the episodes. One, current purchase prices and current income data can be found on our website at theshorttermshop.com. So make sure you check that out because that can change all the time. Also, if you guys want to hang out with us and just talk about short-term rental stuff, you can do that with us and 60,000 of our closest short-term rental investor friends at our Facebook group. Same title as my book, Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth. Make sure to like and subscribe to this podcast and all of our podcasts if you can, because that really helps us out. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Short Term Shop YouTube, and then also follow us on Instagram at The Short Term Shop. And if you're ready to buy a house with us in any of our 20 markets, you can email us at agents@theshorttermshop.com or really any of the avenues that I just gave you. Now let's get into it.
Here we go. Short-term show, special episodes. It's Shenandoah. We're going to talk about things that come up, common occurrences, and what we have to deal with kind of on a daily basis. A little bit dabbling in management here today, and how to get a management plan together for this lovely market. I guess let's talk housekeepers. So pretty simple there, cut and dry. We're just sending them a calendar. Are they easy to find? How many of them are there? Do we, I believe we already got into that subject a little bit on another podcast, but let's talk housekeepers just in general.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, it's going to be about the same as other markets as far as finding housekeepers, and when it comes to how to work with them, as far as like the level to which they are comfortable embracing technology. Finding like a iCalendar or something like that to be able to keep track of when guests are coming in. That's going to vary from person to person. It is worth, bring it up as part of the interview process. When you're putting together your cleaning team, your turnover team, ask them, how they keep track of, when the guests are coming in. And if that's going to, if there's a lot of friction there, if there's going to be a lot of barriers to overcome, it's worth factoring in during that interview process. But, a lot of them are, they've got their, some pretty slick looking websites put out there so that it's becoming more common for people to adopt technology, have good ways of, tracking calendars and that kind of thing, and staying in good communication. When it comes to who to hire, there's a lot of different companies out here, and we can put some resources together for helping people to find that. Also, worth bringing up, Turno.com. It seems like it's also picking up some momentum. So if you're having trouble finding a cleaning team and not getting much traction there, go to Turno.com. It's worth casting your line out there.
Yeah, something that a lot of folks worry about is, what do I do if the guest shows up to the house being dirty? And in my experience, that is just not acceptable. It's not going to happen. It should not happen. If it does happen, 90% chance it was your fault as the host. And so you just got to pay a little bit more attention and button up your calendar system of sorts. There are many different ways to do that now. When I first started, that was an issue. It was a problem. It was kind of always in the back of your head, like, oh man, are they going to show up to a dirty house today? But now we have so many ways to prevent that. It's just it's just a wonderful thing, with all this technology. And of course, the worst case scenario, you could, although we don't recommend, you could look at your camera and see if the cleaner's car showed up that day. Just as a kind of a backup plan, because you're going to put a camera on the front of the home, pointed at the driveway, for security purposes. So there's always that option. And I hear this all the time. Do I need a backup housekeeper? My answer to that is no. I do see some folks thinking that they do need that. I don't think so. To me, the cleaner I hired should have their own backup plan. And that's, again, like Alan said, you got to talk about that in the interview process. What happens if you're sick? What happens if you go on vacation? What happens if somebody in your family gets sick? What happens if your car breaks down? They should say, well, my cousin fills in for me, that kind of thing. I've got another girl that will handle this for me if I'm out on vacation. My brother-in-law is good at this as well, and that, whatever the case may be. To me, having a backup cleaner is just kind of a waste of time, and it's almost like dangling a carrot in front of that person's face for no reason. I just don't think it's a good idea. Your cleaner should have a backup. Shouldn't be your problem. But again, showing up to a dirty house, it can happen. If it was the cleaner's fault, I find that in most cases they are willing to jump over there and get it done in a timely manner. And I usually just send my guests to dinner, on me, that kind of thing. What about bugs? What kind of bugs do we have in this market? And are they an issue? Do we need to get them sprayed on a monthly or annual basis, that kind of thing?
So here in the Shenandoah, I would say that probably the most common occurrences are going to be like what they call stink bugs. They're kind of like shield bugs, stink bugs. I don't know the scientific term for those, but those are going to be fairly common during the summer months, and it's just going to happen just about everywhere. They come inside during like the winter, and then they just kind of find a little place to hide out during the winter, and then they come out during like the spring and summer months. And every once in a while, I'm going to find them in like the windowsills and stuff like that. That's something it's going to be hard to. I think most pest control companies are going to find it hard to treat for those. You might find some local pest control that can find a creative solution for some of those, and just sealing up your property, making sure it's nice and tight is going to prevent a lot of that. You're going to find also like some of these like carpenter bees. They get after your deck sometimes, and if you've got like a cabin with some exposed wood, that's something you're going to want to keep track of and make sure you're staying on top of that, because those things can work very quickly. I mean, just outside my house, I've got this a wooden mailbox stand, and it just seemed like in 1 year that thing went from being solid and brand new to having like little holes. But it blew me away how fast those things can work. But those carpenter bees can really get after things. So it's something you want to keep track of. And I would say, always just about in every vacation market here on the East Coast, you're going to want to keep track of like termites. So part of that initial inspection you want to do, if you're putting together like a property, you're acquiring it for the first time, make sure you do that wood destroying insect inspection, because that'll give you a good clue about what's going to be in that local area. So termites, carpenter ants, carpenter bees, all that kind of stuff. Make sure that those are being kept in check. And that's a good opportunity to talk to whoever's doing that inspection, saying, hey, what are my treatment options? What can I do to prevent this from becoming an issue? And so, yeah, termites, wood destroying insects. And as always, just about in every vacation market, you're going to run across the occasional instance of, bed bugs and that kind of stuff. That happens to everybody. There are treatment options for it. Don't let that freak you out. Don't let that just stop you in your tracks. There are ways to take care of it, and you can just treat it as it comes. But I don't know, Luke, what do you have to? What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, just to reiterate what you said, I do think you should get the insect inspection as part of your home inspection. Usually sometimes it can be the same guy doing that job, or maybe you need to get a licensed bug guy in there to do that portion of it. That being said, I would like to encourage you to not freak yourself out on the findings of such a report. Having seen, I went to home inspector school. I've seen, probably in the thousands of home inspections in my career, hundreds of my own purchases. And if you're looking at a home inspection or any kind of pest inspection or well inspection, any kind of inspection for the first time, it can be very scary. Be prepared. Watch as many YouTubes as you can. There are going to be a lot of things on that. I mean, not that there's a lot of YouTubes on the subject outside of the Short Term Shop channel. We would love for you to stay here and hang with us. But, there are going to be things on that report. They're going to be, Alan said, there's carpenter bees in the area, which means there will be holes in your house. They are unavoidable. They're boring holes in there to lay their larvae. And then the worst part is the woodpeckers come along, drill the hole out so they can get to the eggs, to the larvae, and have a nice little meal. So then the hole gets bigger. These are always fixable. And if the house has been left to its all alone for 20 years, then maybe you've got some decent sized problems on your hand. But if it's a home that's been taken care of and stained on a regular basis, painted on a regular basis, usually the painter or the stainer is going to take care of that stuff, because 9 times out of 10, those holes from the wood boring insects that we're speaking of right now, which would be these flying, wood boring insects of the bees and the woodpeckers, different than termites. I'll get to that. They usually are just doing it in fascia, like a 1x6 or a 1x8, which is quite frankly about $6 at Home Depot and readily available. The hardest part about the holes that these carpenter bees and woodpeckers are causing is that they are generally very far from the ground. So a lot of times you may need a very tall ladder or even a lift to get up there and fix or replace. And that's why the stain painter comes in handy, because he's already going to have to be up there painting and staining. And to replace a little 1x8 piece of fascia is not a big deal. So they'll generally just do that. Otherwise, they'll just fill the holes in, with wood filler or whatever they find necessary, depending on the size of the hole, and then they'll paint over it, and you'll never even know it was there. So if you're keeping up on the home, then this is not an issue. Also, if the seller was not keeping up on it, maybe you use it as some sort of depending on your market. The market seems to change every day right now. Maybe you use that as a negotiation tactic. Hey, you got a bunch of, maybe the seller doesn't realize how easy that job can be. And it may not be easy in your circumstance. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but it can be. So maybe you say, hey man, this house is filled with carpenter bee holes. I need, X amount of bucks off the, and see, throw it out there and see if it works. You never know. But at the end of the day, I don't want anybody to be discouraged by things that come up on these reports, especially if it's your first time. Please arm yourself with as much education as you can. In my experience, as a guy that owns hundreds of homes, and I'm very grateful to have worked my ass off to get to that point. Everything is fixable. Okay. Now, there are certain foundation issues that I don't like to get into. That's for a different episode. But in most cases, what we're talking about right now, especially, is fixable. So keep that in mind. And then back to the termites. Usually this can be rectified by getting upstream of the issue. If you put a termite bond on the property, which is basically means that the termite company is giving you, for lack of a better way to put it, an insurance policy that you will not get termites. And if you do, they will take care of the damages and or repairs in most cases if you have a bond. Bonds can be somewhat expensive, depends on your market. If it's an extremely common termite market, or you're dealing with a very, very large home, the price of these can go up. If it's not an area that's very termite heavy, then it would be less expensive. The company will determine that, keeping in mind that termites love moisture. So if you're in a pretty dry area, you're a little higher up on the hill than the other guy, you probably are at less risk. They just love moist, damp areas. Termites will also, they burrow, right? They climb. They build these tunnels and they climb. So if you have a giant crawl space, then it's less likely you're going to get issues, because they would have to put in so much effort to get themselves to a piece of wood. Usually they'll just move on to the next house. That kind, all things to keep in mind. I am not a licensed bug guy in any way, shape, or form, but just have a lot of experience with it. Hell, I've bought a couple houses in my day that had known termite. They had active termites and tons of damage. I bought a house one time. The front window was completely just eaten up by the termites, and they were active. They were living in there, and I didn't care, because I went in. I was able to kind of finagle my way through the sheetrock a little bit and get a good picture. That's how bad it was. The sheetrock was kind of coming off there, and it was all wet because they destroyed the window, and then the rain came in, So I took a little peek at it, and I kind of determined that it was just from that window to the foundation. So we were going to have to rip out, maybe 2 or 3 feet of sheetrock and studs. I was going to need a new window because it was just kind of destroyed from all the moisture and everything. New window, they redid the studs in there and then re-sheetrocked it. It wasn't that big a deal. And then I think it was a couple pieces of, I think it was hardy board on the exterior. And I got a great deal on it because the seller didn't want to deal with it, and didn't know how to deal with it. They just moved on. I think it was a out-of-state guy that owned several rental houses, and he just didn't care anymore. And I was right there and ready to do it. And we got it done. And that house is a very nice home for somebody. Now, of course, that's a long-term rental, and I'm way off in the weeds over here, but that's not uncommon. Guest complaints. Guest makes a complaint. Alan, and you're a host. How do you handle a guest that complains about things?
I mean, I want to put some at what you just said earlier. Bug damage is not the end of the world, but yeah, like moving on, like guest complaints. It's I'd say the best way to do this is get ahead of it, upstream. Like Luke, you've talked about this in some other episodes as well. You call it the purple apple, where you're trying to explain to people there's going to be some unique aspects to this property. The driveway is steep. There's some other, quirk about the property. Maybe not a quirk, maybe not the best word for it, but something unique about the property that you want to make people aware of ahead of time, so it is not a surprise to them when they get to the property. That heads off an enormous amount of what otherwise might come across as complaints. But if they do, find something like, hey, there's no frying pan here in this property, or hey, the AC is not working like we want. This is a good opportunity to make them feel like you're the Marriott, you're the Disney. You want to make them feel comfortable. You want to roll out that red carpet, say, we'll get this taken care of, and here's your options as far as what we can do to make this right. And it's going to depend on the nature of the complaint. If it's going to be like, hey, there's hair in the bed here, or something like that, there's hair on the bed sheets, or if it's something major like, hey, there's a raccoon in the attic or something like that. It's going to vary from issue to issue. And Luke, feel free to chime in here, but there's going to be a lot of things you can do as a host to make them feel like you've got things in control. You're going to take care of things, and that you want them to have a good time on their vacation, because that's what you want. These people are out here, spending their hard-earned money on the vacations, and you want them to feel like this is a place where they can relax and make some good memories.
Yeah. Upstream is the key there for me. That's I use that for everything in my life, and it is a book, actually. Check it out. It's simply called Upstream, and it's basically, building a dam on things that are happening repeatedly so that it will hold water and make that stop happening. And again, if you use the short-term shop, you'll get me. I mean, I've been doing this to anybody. I've got thousands of reviews and reservations on my resume, and very, very well qualified to take care of any kind of management issues or questions that anybody has. And of course, I teach Management Monday. If you buy a house with Alan, you come to Management Monday with me as many times as you want. It's free. That's the beauty of what we've got going on here at the shop. You don't have to worry about stuff like that. I mean, you do have to handle it, but you won't be on your own. I'm not going to be your property manager. Alan's not going to be your property manager, but we have been through anything that anybody has anxiety about, that you're nervous about, and we can help. We'll be a shoulder to cry on, even when you do get the dreaded bed bugs. Let's not talk about that anymore. Yeah. So, what about weather related incidences? Obviously, snow is going to happen occasionally, power outages, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So the snow storms that are going to be, hefty enough to get people to want to cancel or back out, or even, get trapped in a place if it catches them by surprise. That does not happen very often out here. Again, it's every 5 to 7 years. It seems like there's some fairly hefty snowfall where it kind of puts a pause on things, and at least in the DC area. And then, out in the mountain markets, they're usually a little bit more accustomed to getting heavy snowfall. Usually, it's not uncommon for people to get 8 to 12 inches every year, and they're kind of used to it. If you've got a property that has a gravel driveway or something like that, that can make it a little bit more tricky sometimes for folks who aren't accustomed to driving in snow. Just make sure people know about that. And if there's weather incoming, oftentimes your guests are going to be on top of that, but make sure you're being proactive as a host and make people aware of it, and say, hey, just as a heads up, you're going to have some awfully pretty, some snowfall around there. It's going to turn things into this winter wonderland while you're there. Just want to make sure you're aware of it, and make sure you're prepared to be able to drive in snow. And if they'd rather cancel, I guess different hosts are going to have different opinions on this, but sometimes people don't want to be trapped in a cabin, or they don't like the idea of having to navigate snow or anything else like that. So take that into account. Maybe maybe put the shoe on the other foot. If you would want to be able to back out of a reservation like that, maybe that's the right thing to do to let them do that. I don't know, Luke, you might have a different take on this.
Well, I go both ways on the weather cancellations. I kind of hint to, I used to be very strict on it. I've changed over the years. You got to evolve. Every year is a different strategy and a new way of doing things, just to make sure you're at the top of your game. It's like any other business on the planet. If you're sitting there doing what worked 3 years ago, it's probably not going to work anymore. And the same holds true if you're a basketball player or whatever else, So I used to be very strict on that. Now I'm not. I do have it in my listings. Hey, if there's a storm or a weather related issue where you're going to have to cancel, no refunds for weather. I've gotten a lot more lenient on that. I've kind of taken to the thought that if you can't get to my house or don't want to come to my house, then here's your money back. No problem. I'll move on. You move on, and we'll go about our day and our way. These people are working hard in most cases to save up for these vacations. I mean, you don't even know what the real reason is. They could be blaming it on the snow when they're fighting with their wife or whatever, or they ran out of money and they can't even get to your house. You have no idea, So I've just in my old age have lightened up big time, and I've got them saying, hey, you know what, if this isn't going to work out for you or whatever the case may be, let's go ahead and we'll give you a refund. But it's case by case. I saw the time that are super strict. I am never giving you a penny back. And I don't think they're wrong. I'll be honest, I don't do it that way anymore because it's more work to do it that way, because the guest is going to throw some fits and have some drama, and it's going to be a long drawn out thing over $600. And in most cases, I got a pretty damn good chance I can get that thing rebooked anyway, depending on the time of the year, so there's no right or wrong answer there, I don't think. But to me, the right answer is whatever's going to make my life easier so that I can enjoy more time with my family, so and discounts in general, I just forget the weather or just somebody decides they want to cancel. I'm not going to give a discount for really anything. That's a different story than somebody not wanting to come to the house. So like if somebody says, hey, can I get a Boy Scout discount or whatever it is, whatever, it could be anything. I always just say no. And I'll be honest, my prices are already as good as they're going to be. I'm not like gouging, or I feel like my prices are pretty fair. So if you're the type of person that's asking a lot more than your neighbor, then maybe you do. Maybe that's your whole strategy. Maybe you're offering elderly discount or a military discount, like that's in your headline. In that case, then maybe your prices are a little higher than mine, and then you offer the discount to try and draw those people in. It's a marketing tactic. I don't do that. I like to just offer the best price right out of the gate to make everybody's life, again, easier. I like things to be easy, simple. Don't overthink, But discounts in general, I'm not going to do it. Here's a perfect example. I had a guest yesterday. This is on the beach market. I have where I come from, we call it an in-ground pool. And Avery always says it's just a pool. We don't call it an in-ground, because an above-ground pool is not a real pool, Luke. And I'm like, well, where I come from, all we could afford was an above-ground pool from the Sam's Club. You know what I mean? But I've got a pool at one of my beach houses, and this guest, they just checked in. This was a couple days ago. They checked in and they said the pool's full of bugs. This was a discount seeker, and it was very easy to figure that out. This home, actually, I have the pool cleaned twice a week. The area standard is once a week. So my pool is, in theory, twice as clean as every other pool in the entire city. This is also the number one rental property in this city, a city of Destin, Florida. It does better than I'm currently sitting at number one gross revenue for the entire city for a 4-bedroom property, according to Price Labs. So I'm proud of that. But another thing here, Alan, just to prove my point that there were no bugs in this pool. That pool was cleaned the day before. My pool company takes pictures and writes an itemized report as to what they did to it and how much pH and all this, or whatever the technical terms of all the salt and the chemicals. It's a saltwater pool. And it's brand new, by the way. So this is a brand new saltwater pool. I've had it completely redone. It's not a brand new pool, but I had it completely redone. It's gorgeous. And I had pictures of it gorgeous the day before. So I told her, I said, hey, that pool is professionally cleaned twice a week. I do have pictures in the inspection report of the pool from right before you checked in. And they'll be back tomorrow, which is today. They come on, we don't need to, it's Tuesday. They come on Tuesday. It's Saturday and Tuesday. So I never heard from her again. And it was extremely obvious that she was fishing for a discount to me, because I've been doing this for a long time. So I just put in my system, I'm not going to give you a discount system where I have pictures and proof. And I have a cleaner pool than everybody else on the block, and I shut her down, and she actually just kind of disappeared. I haven't heard from her since. So, occasionally you're going to get somebody like that that's kicking around for some cash, and sometimes you might be better off just giving it to them, quite frankly. But if you've been doing this a long time and you start to learn little tips and tricks like that, make sure your pool guy takes a picture, then you'll be just fine. But again, was it worth my time when you're new? Is it worth your time versus how much is it going to cost you? Those are really kind of the two things to keep in mind. Let's talk about locks. Everybody worries about deadbolts and the batteries dying and things like that. Simple, man. Simple. Put a lockbox on the house somewhere, have a key in it. So if the batteries in your digital deadbolt die, you got a backup plan. One more tip on that. Do not put the lockbox with the key in it anywhere near the front door. It needs to be kind of off on the side or maybe behind you if you're looking at the front door, because if it's on the front door or near the front door, they're going to try and put their code into that lockbox, and they're going to message you at 11 o'clock at night and say, I can't get in the house, because they didn't realize that the deadbolt had a push button on it. I've had that happen 100 times before I moved the lockbox. Just things you learn the hard way, A pool maintenance. Or do we have many pools in this area?
Pools are not super common. You're going to find hot tubs more commonly than pools, but they are becoming a little bit more common. And I'd say that's probably going to be a little bit. I'd say that's going to become a lot more of a draw here in the Shenandoah area in the future. So that's definitely worth keeping in mind. Is finding somebody to maintain that pool and keeping it clean for guests and stuff like that. Definitely something worth factoring in.
Yeah, and the hot tub is just going to be, simply your cleaner in most cases, and maybe not all the time, and it depends on your area. But I would definitely ask the cleaner that when you're interviewing them. Hey, can you do the hot tub for me? And if they say no, or if they've never done it before, it's a pretty simple job. You just got to drain it and clean it and fill it back up again and put the chemicals in the floater. Again, I am not a licensed hot tub cleaner aficionado or anything like that. So make sure you're doing what the local county requires, which in a hot tub in most cases is going to need to be drained and filled between each guest. And again, that should be part of your cleaner's job. So just discuss that with them. I know you got a lot of fires in this market. Are there places that will deliver firewood?
So that is a great question. So if you have like a homeowners association or condo owners association, oftentimes you can ask and they will be providing at least a certain amount of firewood for guests that stay at your property. And so that is sometimes an option. I'd say if you're in like a single family home or something like that, even if it's in an HOA, if it's a single family home, I wouldn't count on that being the fact. And they're here in Virginia, they get pretty persnickety about where you're sourcing your firewood from. I don't know how common it is in other states, but here they're pretty serious about not moving firewood from county to county. So if you are somebody who wants firewood during your stay, or if your guests are going to want firewood, it's highly likely that they're going to frown on you having somebody bring firewood from 2 counties over or something like that. So, but a lot of people, locals, have realized this, and they're getting pretty industrious. They will set up firewood stands, pretty close within a mile or two of most of these vacation markets, and they make it pretty apparent. They'll put up big signs by the side of the road, and they make it pretty easy to get firewood. So I'd say for single family homes and stuff like that, I would say for your guests, let them know that they're going to have to plan to source their own. You can even put up a couple of links. I think there's a website out there where folks can actually source local firewood. And I would say, advertise to them, hey, bring your own firewood. Here's a couple places you can get it, make it easy for them. And if there's a condo, if they're staying in a condo you guys have out here, oftentimes there's at least a small supply of firewood that they'll make available to guests and things like that.
Yeah, and I will say that I'm anti-fire. Wood fire. It's a little too risky for me, a little too dangerous. A lot of folks on vacation are drinking and things like that. So I personally would discourage actual wood burning fires of any kind. But if you work it into your system and it's part of your marketing plan, then so be it. Make sure everybody's being safe, obviously. And then what about rentals? It's a very large area. Am I going to be able to find like a baby rental place, or does anybody do the golf cart thing? I can't imagine they're doing golf carts, but maybe bicycles.
Yeah, every once in a while you're going to find stuff. So like in resort communities and stuff like that, if you want to do like mountain biking or something like that, yeah, they're going to have like in their ski shop, they'll kind of switch over from skiing to mountain biking. You'll be able to rent stuff like that, but it's not common to find like golf cart rentals or stuff like that. You may be able to find something for like baby equipment, like, pack and plays and high chairs and stuff like that you need for stuff like that. But I would recommend that people stock their cabins with that, have that in a little storage cubby or something like that, just tucked away to be available for guests. Because if you have that right on hand, it eliminates a lot of concerns, a lot of hassle the guests might have to worry about if they come into town. And if you don't have that in your property and somebody asks about it, it's easy to drop ship that from Amazon, get it there in, 2 or 3 days time. And you can have it just your cleaner and, tuck it away and, or stick it in a master closet or something like that. It's easy to take care of stuff like that. So there's not a lot of rentals that I would tell people to be super aware of here in the Shenandoah, but it's, again, those are some amenities that it's nice to be able to show off on your listing. So keep that in mind.
Yeah. I did actually hear recently that Airbnb said the number one thing that guests ask Now, I need to clarify this statistic because everybody's such a statistic junkie. From what I understand is the statistic was based on the guests asking questions to the host. The number one thing that they ask for, or if they have, is a pack and play. And when I heard that, I was actually anti until I heard that. And then I ordered, I actually have 2 of them in a couple of my houses. But again, talk to your lawyer about that. Make sure that they feel that is, a liability that you want to deal with. And maybe it needs to be in your rental agreement. We're not here to offer any kind of legal advice. But I did hear that recently straight from Airbnb that everybody's asking for pack and plays. They actually do have a pack and play button on the Airbnb dashboard. So does Verbo. So you can say, yes, I do have that. No, I don't have that. Cool. What else did we miss? Management is going to be, just to be completely honest here, management will be covered in great detail. If you purchase a home with the shop, you come to Management Monday with me as many times as you want. You'll have access to me personally anytime. I also have a podcast on that subject. If you're looking for more on management and day-to-day, how to run a short-term, check out my podcast called Short-Term Rental Management, appropriately titled. But Alan, did we miss anything, or how we doing?
No, I think we actually ran it out pretty well. I think we covered most of the bases here. If there's any other specific questions, please reach out to me, Alan at theshorttermshop.com, ALAN at theshorttermshop.com. Reach out to us, and we'll be happy to. And I think you've got office hours as well. If you got questions, you can reach out to them. I think those are on Thursdays. Luke's probably got the details for how to get in touch with them. Sign up for that. But please come and talk to us. Ask us your questions. We'll be happy to help you.
Yeah, we are very available. In other words, we want to help you in your journey with the vacation home rentals and things like that. So. Yes, we do. You can talk to Avery and myself live almost every Thursday. It's strquestions.com and, of course, theshorttermshop.com if you want to talk to an agent. And thank you for listening. We're very grateful to have you. And we will be back with episode 10 of Short Term Show Special Episodes Shenandoah.